that in England the weather's going to get better.
Hello, everybody. We were on mute.
Hello, everyone. Listen, we were on mute. Pure chat. Nothing's going on. Right.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome to Let's Talk Live Stream. Hope you've had a good day so far.
Yes, and you know what? Tonight, we've got a special somebody to come and talk to us. Right, special gentleman, and you know what? We've been quite fortunate because this man is so busy. We've grabbed some time with him, so let's not waste that time.
Yeah, indeed.
I hope, as I've always said, that you have your pens and notepads because this man has a wealth of experience and knowledge, and we want to glean some of that to give to you to promote your business and to make your business better than it can be. Yes, way better. So indeed. That's where we're going. So, without further ado, we want to introduce to you
Mr. Basil Linx, from the director of Pempamsie and Eat of Eden.
Yep.
Hello there, sir. Come on in. Welcome.
And get yourself off mute.
Right. Okay. Hi. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Yeah.
How are you, sir? How's it been today?
Yeah, today was a good day. Every day is a good day, I guess. So all is well.
Good. We want to talk to you, and you know we do thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We know that you're a busy man, so we chose 8 o'clock to make sure we can catch you at some point because your days, you know, my man's days start at 5 o'clock in the morning. Well,
they say that the most successful people get up early. Business people start their day early.
I'm still on the 6 o'clock. I'm getting there. You know, I'm whittling it down, but you know, it takes a long time. So the question is, who are you, sir, and where are you from?
Okay. Well, my name is Basil. I'm known as Basil Linx. My actual name is Basil Palmer, but I'm known as Basil Linx. I'm from South London. Yeah. Kind of raised in around Brixton area. Spent a fair amount of time in Jamaica, but I've been a businessman for the last, I'd say, 35 years.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, in various, guises. And so currently, I guess the thing that I've done the longest is property. So I've been a property investor, a landlord, developer, both in the UK and internationally. I started in property in the early 80s, about 84, I think I bought my first property.
Wait, so how old were you then?
I was 18.
18? Wow.
I bought my first property when I was 18, my second property when I was 19, my third property when I was 20, believe it or not. And
wow.
I've never sold a property, ever.
Okay.
Wow.
So what enticed you to, where did your thinking come from for you to think so early on, I need to get onto the property ladder?
Well, my inspiration, I guess, for that came from home, came from my parents. My dad would say to me, at the time we were living in Jamaica, my family was in Jamaica, but my dad would say to me, the one thing that you need to get as a priority is to have your own home. And his thinking was, if you own your own home, nobody can't tell you to get out. Can't run you out of your own home. Yeah. So that was more or less his thinking. And so as soon as I was able to, I started saving. I was working 2 jobs. 16, 17, I was working 2 jobs, sometimes 3. And I made, enough money. I saved my deposit. And it's all relative because back in those days, my first property I bought, I think, for £27,000. Yeah.
Yeah. It is today, isn't it?
But what I was earning at the time, probably about £40 or £50 a week.
Right.
it's relative that, you know,
Yeah.
I had to do two jobs to make the ends meet, and to save. And then eventually, I think I ended up putting down something like a 5% deposit, which was about £1,400.
Those are the good old days.
Yeah, so that's where it started.
Let me ask you then. So your experience of business started from that premise, but you gained a lot of experience elsewhere. So could we talk about where you gained that experience and what were the little curves that help you to step up the ladder to then get yourself into the position you are today? So how did it start?
Well, when I left school, and basically I got a job working, and I started out wanting to be a mechanic, of all things. I'm not that technically minded, but I just figured that, you know, being a mechanic, I could start my own business once I'd learned the trade. And I went to apply for a job as a mechanic, and I met the guy whose business it was, and he basically said to me, "Young man, you're far too smart to be a mechanic. No disrespect to mechanics, but the business that he owned, it was a spare parts dealership with a workshop and a parts department, and he invited me to join in the parts department, and basically said that from a perspective of making money, because he wanted to know what my motivation was, that I'd make a lot more money selling parts than I would fixing cars. So the gentleman's name was Stanley West, which was an English guy from Cornwall, in fact. And he, I basically started working for him probably in about 1981 when I left school. And I worked for him for 22 years. And during that mentorship, shall we say, I went from starting out as a trainee, as a warehouse person, developing into a salesperson, eventually a sales manager, a branch manager, a commercial manager, a company director, regional manager. So I ended up as an executive within a company, and the company basically grew from the time that I started, where they had one shop, and when I left 23 years later, the company had 88 branches and over 1,000 staff, and I was responsible for the London operation of that company.
Right.
So within that part of my career, I was sent to Westminster Polytechnic, which is part of Westminster University, where I studied a business management course for 3 years. And so I learned on the job, and I learned my business understanding in college as well as in practical.
I mean, what you're saying there is it's being done today, but not to that degree, because what you're saying there was so unusual in the days. For you to be in that position, you know, the government have done everything to get young people to, you know, go on apprenticeship, on training and so on. But this is a gentleman who's seen your potential. And can I ask, who did you go with the interview with?
Okay, yeah. So it was interesting. As I said at the time, my family was living in Jamaica. But my dad happened to be in this country. So my dad had a house in this country, but he also he had already gone back to live. My family had already gone back to live in Jamaica, so he happened to be in England at the time. And when I said to him, right, that I've got an interview, he was like, "Okay, I'm coming." So he came to the interview, and it was actually quite strange, because I remember when I still remember to this day that I was sitting down in the reception, and the boss came downstairs, and he's like, "Right, Basil Palmer," and he looked at my dad, and he was like, "You know, were you applying for the training mechanic's job?"
No, man, my son is.
Exactly. That's exactly what he said. So, you know, he had on a suit, I had on a suit.
Right.
And,
Wow.
you know, my church suit. And at the end of the day, I came up, and actually, one of the things that the guy said to me at the time, he goes, you know what, I've given you this job, because he actually offered me the job during the interview. And he said,
That's brilliant.
he said, basically, one of the things is, I've seen your dad, and I know that if you step out of line, that your dad, I'll have to make one phone call to put you back in line. So he didn't know that my dad actually lived in Jamaica, but, you know, he gave me the job, and I never looked back from there, really.
Wow, you see now
that is amazing, because that you learn all of your, you know, your trade, how to manage, all your learning came from
that moment
on the job as well.
Yeah, within the my career within that business, I actually I did stints within branch, so I understood about sales. I did a stint of about 6, and it was literally like 6-7 years in each department. So I understood about purchasing, I understood about stock control, you know, stock rotation, margins, markup, negotiating strategies with purchasing. I learned about operations and logistics and deliveries, and, you know, processes for, you know, handling stock. I learned about marketing, finance, and understood how to look at a balance sheet and a P&L, profit and loss. Yeah.
So quite literally, then you had the fingerprint ready,
the backbone for Pempamsie straight away.
Start without any fear.
So now,
going forward.
From that point, you've actually now been in a situation where you've been exposed to business as a whole, taking over kind of directors, you know, managing a group, an area manager in London, making sure of that. Then what happened then? Where's the next move? Because you've always been transitioning forward. So what was the next move after that?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, after about 20 odd years, and by this time I'm just around getting to the age of 40. But one of the good things, just to go back slightly, was that during my time, I worked really, really hard. You know, it wasn't handed to me on a plate. Now, from a very young age, and I remember this vividly, imagine a 16, 17-year-old young man working in a dealership every single day, the boss being in the office and the shop finishing and closing at 6 o'clock, and all the staff going home. And this young man still in the workshop, still in the warehouse, making sure that stuff is being put away, stuff is being checked off. And on a daily basis, the boss would come downstairs, and he might come down at 6:30, he might come down at 7, 7:30, and I'd still be there. And he'd have to come to me and say, Basil, it's 7:30, it's time to go home. And I'd say to him, Stan, I'm just in the middle of doing something, I want to get this out of the way so that tomorrow I know I've got a lot coming in. And he'd say, okay. And he'd go back up into his office. And he said, okay, I've got another half an hour's worth of work I can do. I'll be down in half an hour. And he literally would have to drag me away from the workplace. And I took it seriously. Yeah.
He saw your work ethic.
Yeah.
You know, and the dedication to the job.
And in addition to that, what would happen is that because I created my own value, so, you know, I really engulfed myself in the business, and, you know, I took the documents home, I took the catalogs home, I studied it so that I really understood what I needed to know when I needed to know it. So, as I said, I created my own value. Now, what that did for me was, having had this concept of owning property embedded in my psyche, every so often, I would go to my boss and I'd say, look, I really want to buy an investment property. This is me as an 18, 19, 20-year-old. And I need a loan. And he would lend me the money.
Wow.
He would take the money out of the deposit, that is, out of my salary over, say, 18 months.
Okay.
And so he would lend me 10 grand or he'd lend me 12 grand, and then he would take it out at a rate of whatever rate over, say, 18 months, 2 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd use that money, get a deposit on a property, rent the property out. Yeah. And then in a way, it was him ensuring that I stayed with the company for at least 2 years.
Yes, as well.
Yeah.
But for me, as I did that over the years, I was able to actually build a property portfolio that there's no way I would have. I basically leveraged what I had in terms of someone that had a lot of money to actually achieve my own individual property portfolio.
Wow, wow, that is just amazing, because you know what, and not a lot of people actually understand, because it was only a few years ago I understood what leverage was about.
Exactly. And that's an essential part of, if you want to be successful, you have to know how to leverage, whether it's leveraging your time, leveraging your resource, leveraging your people. It's an important part, because that's how you actually create more momentum behind whatever you're doing. And I was literally doing that as a teenager.
And it's also important that you understand your value, and when you understand your value, you can leverage that towards where you want to go. Because you know, we always say, because we're kind of in a situation where we say, you know, we're modest in what we do because we don't want to be shining the light on what we do. But the truth is, if we know our value, we put that out there so that people understand and take part and help us to move forward. And that leverage aspect of learning and doing business, that is a crucial part that we don't actually do too much of, and we need to learn that. So you know, it's really important that you share that.
And not only that, you know, it comes back to a certain degree to the basic principle of, if you don't ask, you don't get. You know, and people say, "Oh no, I can't." How can you ask for that? But again, there are people out there. If you show, like you have shown, you know, the attitude, that you know, that you immersed yourself in the company that you were with, they, you know, your boss or your manager knew this is the guy that is somebody that I can trust and I can see will do something good with.
Put it this way, I would do that today. If there's a staff member, I employ about 170 people within the group. And if there's a staff member that I value, that needs help, that's trying to buy a house or trying to buy an apartment or trying to develop themselves, and they need me to give them some money or lend them some money, over a period of time, I will support them because they're an asset. You don't expect people to work for you forever, but if that ties them in and consolidates the relationship, so those lessons are as true today as they were
then.
Because after 20 years of working with that business, it's almost, you know, you had an ownership to that because it belonged to you. You actually say, well, this is my business, I'm working with that. Until you are ready to go to the next level, that's where you know that you put in. So you're expecting to get something back out of that.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually made a 2% shareholder in the company.
Wow.
So he did actually make me a director eventually, and it gave me a stake in the business. But after 20 odd years, with the realization that I wasn't actually going to go to become sort of run the business, you know, I'd sort of
glass ceiling.
What you would say, a glass ceiling. Having said that, by this time I had already started my own business, as in Linx, Ticket Linx. But I decided that I would leave that GSF car parts. I took another job working for another car parts company. This was actually the largest car parts company in the UK at the time, called Unipark Automotive. So I did 3 years as an area manager in London, looking after 21 sites. And then I did 3 years as a regional sales manager, looking after 51 sites. And that took me 6 years there. And then I decided to take a step back.
You're taking that step.
That was sort of 9 years ago. And that's when I decided to focus on Pempamsie and my own business.
Okay.
Before we even go to Pempamsie,
exactly.
I just want to say that let us talk, just a brief talk about what you did when you were with what was it, the other company that you got into?
Oh, Uniparts Automotive.
Yeah, because you changed that company from one to another level. So can we talk about that?
I mean, basically, when they actually headhunted me, they were looking for a regional sales manager, an area sales manager for London. And at the time, which I subsequently found out, they had 5 people in that role over the previous 5 years, and they basically had to sack everyone. So in the world of private sector business, if you know you're only as good as your last set of results, and if you have 2 bad sets of results, it's a bit like a Premiership football manager.
You're out. You're relegated.
Everyone's telling you you're doing a fabulous job.
Then they sack you. So basically, I went through the interview process, which was quite rigorous. They offered me the job. I took the job. Eventually, after they sort of upped it, I didn't really want the job because I was comfortable, but I took the job. And so these jobs are all like six figure salary jobs. And over the first 3 years, I basically went to work because the area that I took over was in decline. So it'd been declined for certain, probably 5-6 years or longer. And I actually was able to achieve growth. So I stabilized the area.
Right.
I recruited a lot of new people. I got rid of a lot of dead wood. And basically improved the performance of the area significantly. Outperformed. There were 18 areas within the business, and I literally was like double digits away from the next person. So achieving year-on-year growth, like in 20% up year-on-year, which was unheard of in that business. And that's why after 3 years, they basically, and this was a business with 200 sites. I think it was the 4th largest private company in the UK, with 3-point-something billion turnover. But eventually, after 3 years, they made me a regional manager responsible for a quarter of the branch network, which I did for 3 years until I had to walk away, basically. Yeah.
Was that? Did you reach the point then where you said, actually, I am now ready to 100% go out on my own and develop my own business?
Well, I had my own business, and what happened was I reached a point where at the time I probably had about 7 or 8 properties that I owned. And it wasn't, my motivation wasn't survival, like earning a living to survive, because I'd been prudent throughout my working career. And by that time, I was about 45 years old. So I'd been working away from the age of 15 through to 45. So that's like 30 years by that time. So the company actually wanted me to relocate to Birmingham. They wanted me to relocate outside of London. Because at the time my daughter was about maybe 6 or 7 years old, and I was used to taking her to school and being close with my daughter, and I just said, you know what, I'm not prepared to do it. So basically they restructured. My role became redundant. I was on garden leave. I literally was on garden leave for 6-7 months. On full salary, and it was during that period of garden leave that I thought, actually from the day that they said to me, you do realize if you don't want to relocate, your role won't be there. You're not going to have your role as regional manager. So I said, well, I'd already thought about it, and you can't really threaten someone who's financially secure.
Exactly.
Part of the reason they pay you that amount of money is to get your buy-in and, to sort of pay you enough so you'll just do whatever you can to stay. But effectively, I was quite happy to leave. I got a decent, because of my executive contract,
yeah,
I had to give 3 months notice, but then they basically said, well, as of tomorrow, you're now on garden leave.
yeah.
When it was apparent that I wasn't going to play ball, I ended up having 6 months of garden leave, which was full pay, all benefits intact.
Yeah.
Eventually, they paid me 6 months' salary, so I had a year's salary out of it. And from the very next day that I left, I was able to go into Pempamsie, and at that stage, Pempamsie was more or less a small bookshop, culture shop. We weren't really a health or holistic health store. We weren't doing health products, but we were doing books and jewelry and clothing and other bits and pieces. Part of a dying breed, to be fair, because 10 years ago, you had a fair amount of bookshops.
Yeah, that's true.
Still, you had Centerprise, you had Humanja, you had, various other bookshops, Books and Images in London, and Pempamsie was one of those, but it was part of a dying breed. So when I went in there and I realized, within a few months of working there every day, I realized that in terms of our inventory, we had a lot of stock in books. The turnover wasn't, it didn't warrant having that amount. There was a lot of issues in the stock that we were keeping. There was a lot of occasional purchases, artwork and carvings and stuff like that. And really, I needed to change the business into a business that actually supplied things that people wanted to buy every day.
Right.
And that was the reason why I identified holistic health products. Then, basic things such as toothpaste and mouthwash and deodorant and hair oil and shampoo, which are things that people buy, 6, 8, 10 times a year.
Return customers,
Return customers. So that was a conscious decision by analyzing the business, that I decided to sort of move towards away from the sort of occasional purchase and into a more daily, essential type purchase, and a very specialist business as well, with the herbs and the cleanses and the vitamins and the minerals, because I identified that more or less specialism is where the skill lies, is where the value.
How did you come about? What does Pempamsie mean, and how did you come about recognizing what that specialism that you wanted to do?
Okay, so Pempamsie is an Adinkra symbol, so it's based on the Adinkra, which is a Khan part of Africa in Ghana. Yeah, so it's the Akan people, and they use these symbols. Pempamsie is one of them. Jinyami is one of them, where they basically, each symbol has a meaning, and the meaning of Pempamsie was or is steadfast, in preparation for, ready for action. So like a soldier would be training ready for any action, any eventuality. Also, it means unity and strength in unity, the pulling together of a community. So the name wasn't my idea, but it was something that I agreed with. So
it was apt.
It was suggested to me that would be a good name to use for a business. And I agreed with that, and therefore that's how the actual concept came about. And what we try to do is to embody the definition and the essence of what that word actually means.
And what year did you start Pempamsie?
Well, initially I started it in '92, so I started it while I was working for GSF, and I kept it going throughout that period. There were times when I worked there. There were times when I had other people working there.
Right.
And it basically, it was more a labor of love because it wasn't an income. I never really got paid for it. But at the same time, it was something that I was passionate about. So from 92 I started, but I didn't actually start working in it full time until 2012.
Okay. All right.
Right. So did it also become like a collective? Because you said that you worked there at some points, but then you had other people working with you.
Yeah.
Was that
in 2006? While I was still working full time, I became I kind of became associated with a group of people. That's when the name came about in 2006. So the idea was up until that point, from 1992 to 2006, Pempamsie, or Linx as it was known then, Ticket Linx and Linx, was just my own business. In 2006, I joined forces with a number of other individuals, and we created a collective. So it was sort of, Pempamsie became a collective. So it was a case of, within the business, there was about 6 people. One was doing jewelry. One was doing books. One was doing clothing. One was doing greeting cards. So I still had items being sold in the shop, but the shop was more or less being run as a collective with individuals, and they were
a little enterprise.
Wow. That was joint enterprise. So,
and just to say, was Brixton was the first one? Yes, am I right?
Brixton was the first one, correct?
Was the first one? Okay. And obviously,
so now that you've actually, you said that you had a collective there, but you then returned to take over. So how did that transpire from there?
Well, I think it was a natural kind of wastage. The process was, and this is one of the things that I learned as a businessman: success don't come overnight. And sometimes what we do is that we start something, and if it doesn't start to make loads of money from the inception, we kind of feel like, nah, this is a waste of time. And I try to encourage people, anyone that I speak to these days, is that, you have to have a 5-year plan. You may start making money before that, but in normal, a 3 to 5 year plan is reasonable time to expect to start making profit in a business. Now, in the age of instant gratification, the internet, we want to start a business, we want to make money
now. It's going to be now.
But in real life, and even though there are cases where people are on Instagram and they get paid loads of money, but generally speaking, 95% of businesses fail, and the ones that are successful take 2 to 3 years to actually turn a profit. So what happened was that within the collective, there were a number of people that felt, they kind of fell by the wayside, more or less.
Right.
The business hadn't actually gone anywhere. It hadn't actually made, established itself. So it started out with 6 members, and over the next 6 years, it went down. People kept on leaving, and other people kept on joining, and what have you. And after a 6-year period, I think after probably going through about 15, 16 different individuals as part of the collective, it ended up with just one person.
Okay.
And then that one person,
that same guy who was reading the books, the manuals, the same one who had to be kicked out.
So eventually, as it was just opportune at the time that I had the opportunity to walk away from my corporate career, with the benefit of having 6 months garden leave, which basically meant that I was getting paid for 6 months, and then I got a 6 months lump sum. So it gave me that cushion to actually immerse myself in the business, which I did. So, you know, I basically, from having a business that at the time when I came in 2012 was turning over about £5,000 a month, over the last 9 years, that business has grown to a group which now turns over in excess of 500,000 a month.
Brilliant.
Whoa,
that's wonderful.
That's wonderful.
And as we're speaking, I am sharing, you know, the four addresses so people do know
where to go,
where they can go to find and shop there.
Now, you see, now Pempamsie is one thing, but to move from Pempamsie to the Eat of Eden, that is a big step and fortuitous, because you are again ahead of the grade, because not many people are thinking in that direction. So when you first started with that, how did that come about? Because you've got Pempamsie going, but that next step, what happens there?
Yeah, where did you see that coming through?
Yeah, well, basically, one of the things that I try to practice is continuous development. Yeah, so therefore, you know, business is cyclical. So times change, innovations happen, changes happens in the marketplace. So you can't always do what you've always done. You have to develop and grow. Yeah. So just in the same way as Pempamsie kind of evolved from being a culture shop to a holistic health shop. Yeah. And then we ended up, our growth was organic. So any shop that has developed out of the Pempamsie Brixton shop has been developed by a member of the team. So it was somebody that's come into the shop, worked in the shop. I've identified the talent. I've actually, rather than expecting people to want to work for me because I'm a nice guy for the rest of their lives, when you can identify talent, then my strategy is that I harness that talent, go into partnership with that talent, and create a platform and an environment for them to go out and work for themselves.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So that's how Pempamsie basically has grown. So the individuals running those businesses are my business partners now. Yeah. That were formerly my staff, but now they're independently running the business.
So this is
that's a really good one.
Would I say that like it's like a franchise?
It's not so much a franchise, because if you understand the concept of a franchise, that's with like yourself as a business owner, you set up your business, and then you effectively buy the right to use my brand. So it's your business 100%. You pay me for the use of my brand. You pay a franchise fee, and it would be probably an upfront fee plus an ongoing fee, and you're governed by terms and conditions. But essentially, that business belongs to you, and you may have a license, so you might buy a 5-year franchise deal, and at the end of that franchise deal, you either extend it and extend it for another 5 years, or you say, I don't want it anymore, and you give up the franchise. You no longer have the right to use my brand. But the difference between what I do is that it's more a partnership. So we create a separate entity, a separate business. I own the majority share. My business partner owns a substantial share. And therefore, you know, if it's whether it's a 30-70 or a 35-65 or 60-40, they put money in, I put money in, they run the business. I'm more or less in the background, but it's incorporated within the group. So every individual, every branch, and actually that's one thing, I will never actually open a business, you know, like a retail business, unless I have a business partner that's actually going to be in that business 7 days a week. You know, not necessarily working 7 days a week, but focused on it 7 days a week as their core business. So then that way, I don't have to, I create that environment and support that business, but I don't, I mean, there are some of my branches that I haven't actually been to for like 6 months, 7 months.
Okay.
I can then leave them to get on running that business. putting my group finance director in a position to monitor the performance, the margins, the sales, and the money, and what have you, and then move on to opening and establishing more outlets. So that's basically how Pempamsie has grown. I was then offered an opportunity to take over a business which hadn't been running that successfully. It was a coffee in Brixton Village called Lime, and it was basically run by.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was run by a very close friend of mine, and they'd had it for a couple of years. Prior to that, it was a bakery, but it had never really taken off for them. And obviously, there's loads of coffee shops in Brixton. They've got all the brands in Brixton. They've got better locations on the high street. This was right at the back of the market, so it wasn't really that great a concept. However, when it was offered to me, and it was literally a case of, it's a great location, but what we're doing isn't working, and we'd like to get you involved, and what ideas do you have? And the first thing I said was, you know what, we can open a takeaway, we can open an eatery, but being a vegetarian, basically, and being in Brixton for all this time, I was aware very much that it was difficult to get vegetarian food, vegetarian soup and vegetarian food. If you eat jerk chicken, you're fine, but there was lots of options. But in actual fact, I would struggle to find food to eat, and I don't also eat dairy. So more or less, I just kind of thought about it, and I thought, I don't think I'm the only person that struggles with, that doesn't want to eat meat. So therefore, I came up with the idea of a vegan. And at the time, actually, my daughter Kelly had just decided to become vegan as well. So that was about 4.5 years ago.
Okay. Right.
So I came home and I was like, Kelly, they've offered me this restaurant. I'm not sure if I'm going to take it or not. And she's like, why don't you do a vegan thing? And I was like, actually, you're right. So,
two minds think alike.
Two minds, yes.
So it was kind of, I don't know what inspired me to come up with the name of Eden, but I was more or less thinking of the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
When I saw that, I did think that too. I did think
that. That was my thought process.
Yeah.
And so literally it was, I looked around. I'm not the best cook in the world, and definitely wouldn't have been able to come up with the concept of the menu. But I looked around and found a vegan chef. Came and he just created loads of different vegan meals, and I invited quite a few people around to my house where we done some testing of different stuff, and then we came up with a menu. And actually, when I look back at it, I look at I look back at my Facebook posts, and I actually posted like probably a year before the restaurant opened. I had a tasting session of vegan food at my house last night, and I'm going to open a vegan restaurant. Watch this space. So when the restaurant actually opened, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. I mean,
really,
we probably did like £600,000 in the first 12 months, and that was based around queues and queues and queues of you have to sort of queue for an hour just to get served. And it wasn't what I didn't even anticipate it was going to be that busy. So,
and do you think it was because of your marketing as well, and showing everybody this is the wonderful, great food that is going to be coming? Watch this space. Do you think that was part of it?
I think that in business, timing is everything.
Right.
And it just so happens we were ahead of the curve, but we were the fastest growing sector in the hospitality industry is veganism. So I think a combination with people getting fed up with meat and vegetarians suffering. Years ago, you go to a restaurant, you're like, I'm a vegetarian, they'd offer you salad.
And exactly, and
that would basically be the only thing that
no option.
Salad.
Guilty.
So therefore, when you could offer people, you know, pumpkin and sweet potato curry and lentils and ackee and plantain and burgers and a whole range of vegan patties and stuff. And so people could actually go there and know that they could have a choice, a selection that was flavoursome, that even non-vegans wouldn't necessarily miss the meat.
Wouldn't turn their nose up against.
And I think that's the rub, isn't it? Because that is essentially it. You want to obviously cater for, you know, the vegan and vegetarian people, but you also want that food to also impact and let everybody know, listen, this food is wonderful. you know, you can eat it, it's great tasting as well. You know, and just dispel the notions that people have about not eating meat.
So basically, our expansion was something that had to happen because the Brixton branch couldn't cope. They literally couldn't cope. So and it was making money. So we decided that, you know what, we won't take money out of the business. We will use it and to
reinvest.
And when you look at what's come out of Brixton Village, you've had you know, the Honest Burger, which is like 4 doors away. That started in Brixton Village, and now, you know, they were bought out for how many millions, and they now have about 25 branches across the country. Franco Manco Pizza, born in Brixton Village. And one of the things that I looked at is that those companies achieved offers of like up to sort of 6-8 million pounds with one branch.
Right.
So in effect, I was determined that I wasn't just going to create one branch and then sell out to people, venture capitalists who wanted to just take the brand and open Eat of Edens, which would have been quite easy to do, just to sell them the brand once you'd proven that, we could make, you know, more than $500,000 in a year, in our first year, and make a profit. You know, they would buy the brand or buy a percentage of the brand. But I didn't really want to work for anyone. So I figured, you know, if they'd give me 6 million for one branch, if I can open 20 branches and prove that 20 branches can be successful, I'm creating a more valuable portfolio. So that's been the motivation behind the expansion, and I'm hoping at the moment we've actually got 6 branches now because we've got.
Oh, really? Congratulations!
Yeah. We've only got 4, so you know you need to update us.
I've
been sharing the 4 so far.
Brixton
that was since yesterday.
Clapham was the second. Shepherd's Bush was the third. Lewisham was the fourth. Walthamstow was the fifth. And
so you've got Walthamstow.
And Croydon was the sixth.
Okay.
And we currently have Harlesden and Tottenham in incubation. So hopefully by the end of the year, or maybe just after, there'll be 8.
Wow!
Brilliant.
That is fabulous.
So far, how have you found business going?
It's been challenging. I mean, it was going great guns up until, you know, the lockdown came along. And that in itself has kind of presented its own challenges because obviously we had to close the doors to public. We had to, you know, we had to actually close the door, period, initially. And reopened as a takeaway only, which means engaging with people like Uber, Just Eat, Deliveroo. And those guys obviously eats into your margins. They take sort of 35% of whatever you sell. So it hasn't been easy the last 18 months. Glad to say, I mean, bigger and more established companies have folded during, you know, as a result
during
of
that time as well,
like Debenhams and you know, HM Lewin and all these companies that you know had been going for years.
Does that impact on one of the lessons that you spoke about was the lean practice? Has that aided you in terms of how you developing your business?
Well, definitely.
And what is lean practice for those who don't know?
Okay, so when I was an area and regional manager at Unipart Automotive. I mean, they run one of the largest lean consultancies in the country, and it makes billions of pounds. Yeah, and basically the practice of lean is basically waste removal. Yeah, from every single process. Yeah.
Wow.
So what that basically means, if I give you a very basic example, if you were going to make a cup of tea, there's an efficient way to make it, and there's a wasteful way of making it. Yeah.
Right.
So for argument's sake,
I'm learning. I'm listening.
So for argument's sake, if I said to you, all right, I need a cup of tea, what are you going to do? Yeah. So what they might say, somebody might say, okay, I'll go and get the cup, I'll go and get the milk and the sugar and the tea bag, and then I'd fill the kettle up, and then I'd put the kettle on, and then when it boiled, I'd pour the tea, and then I'd serve it. And I'd say, okay, so that in itself is a process. Yeah.
Right.
That's actually the wrong way to do it.
Okay.
Told you.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
So the right way to do it would be to first of all determine how many cups of tea you want, and only fill the kettle with the amount sufficient to make. So if it's 1 cup, why would you waste electricity and water to boil a whole kettle full of tea of water when you need 1 cup? Yeah. Right. So it would you'd establish how much tea you want, how many cups. You'd catch enough water just to fulfill that need. You would put the water to boil first. So rather than having to wait, because waiting is waste. So rather than having
to time management,
right?
Wow.
You'd put the kettle on, and then during the process of the kettle being boiled, you'd go out and get the tea bag and the milk.
Put the tea bag in, put the sugar in,
that stuff.
put the milk in.
By which time the tea, the water would be boiled, and then you'd make the tea. Yeah.
Okay.
You'd pour the water. So there'd be less waiting, there'd be less wastage, there'd be less electricity costs, less wastage of water, and less waiting time while you're waiting for that kettle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you know. Right now, you know.
When you
don't make me wait long. Right, I want you know.
So when you think about that, that's a very basic example.
Yes.
But basically, every single job that you do in your business or in your life, it's possible to process map it, to understand where the waste is. What are you doing? Process mapping. Not doing, or what are you doing too much of, or and if you apply a lean practice to your life, you probably buy less things, you buy less shopping, you buy less, because a third of what we buy in the supermarkets goes straight into the bin.
Yes.
Because you put it in the fridge, you keep on buying it, you don't use it, you chuck it out. Yeah, it goes off.
Yes.
Yeah? So
guilty.
Listen,
hey, listen. You know what? This is a life lesson, and you know what? I've always said the business is like life. If you take business in the life frame, you have a good business, and this is a life lesson. Wow.
Everybody had their pens and pads ready.
I mean, it's something that you can, and to be honest, as part of the executive team within Unipart, you had to actually become a trained lean practitioner up to level 4, which means that you can teach it. Yeah. So there's a way of looking at every single process and breaking it down into elements, and actually putting it up on a board where you process. It's called process mapping, and then you look at every individual element and say, is it necessary? Is it the best way to do it? And if it isn't, you just remove the element. It's just like having a snapshot. And you take that element out, and then something that starts with 20 different elements can end up with 14 elements. Now, if that's a job that's done 10 times a day, you add up, you may only save a minute, and you might think, well, on a process of 4 minutes, I've saved a minute, so what? But if you're doing that 4-minute process 10 times a day, That's 10 minutes a day. And if you're running a business where 100 people are doing that process, that's 10 times 100. That's times 100 per day. When you extrapolate that over 12 months, then
it's a big saving.
That's where you're seeing
thousands and thousands worth of savings. So what you do is that you're continuously looking at processes, you're continuously process mapping, you're continuously removing waste from you're continuously moving waste from your processes. And
so do you as your staff team, do they follow that process? Do you do that for them, or do they implement that into the process?
Well, it's something that I do naturally now because I've done it as part of my career all the time. So we're constantly looking at processes. And it's not just about process mapping. There are a number of tools that you'd use in terms of, brainstorming, problem solving, root cause analysis, SWOT analysis. There's a lot of tools that are engaged when you're a lean practitioner. So asking, because in actual fact, to say whatever problem you have, you have to ask, why is there a problem? Why did this happen? And it's called the 5 whys. That's another tool that you use. So you have to drill down, because unless you solve the root cause of a problem, you're only really solving the symptoms. You're not really dealing with the root cause. So again, root cause analysis is one of the things that you would do, and the 5 whys is a tool that you would use. SWOT analysis to identify your strengths and your weaknesses and opportunities, and that type of thing is what you would do, and you kind of end up doing it naturally. Once you understand it, it's like driving a car. You automatically change the gear.
Now, indeed. I'm going to go into a segue because I know our time is running and you may have things to do. So I want to go into, you went from Pempamsie, you've gone to Eden. Now, what's the Vale treatment room in Brixton? What's that? Okay, so to kind of add to, because as we establish ourselves as a herbal holistic healing center, or shop, shall we say, what we realize is that some of our clients require a bit more than just coming in and just, buying products. So the best form of medicine holistically is preventative medicine. So what we did was I partnered with another individual, and we opened a treatment center. So we offer there things like colonic irrigation, massage, fat freezing. There's all these different things, acupuncture, mole removal. There's all these different things that we offer, these different services, which are all part of a sort of holistic approach to life. So we have qualified practitioners that work out of the Vale treatment rooms, and it was just, there was a synergy between Pempamsie selling herbs and vitamins and minerals and supplements, and then having a center where people could actually come to get treatments and consultations. So again, and eating well actually works with that as well. So
exactly,
it's a complete triangle of supporting the body and the wow. So where do you see that going in the next few years? I mean, because I'm looking at, where do you want to develop that? Because
I've already started that process. I mean, I've been in Ghana for the last 5 weeks, and one of the things that I've decided to do is to kind of develop that whole concept of not just having a treatment room where you can make an appointment and basically it's like have a 1 day or 1 hour session. So we've just embarked on the process of opening the first Pempamsie Wellness Retreat, which is a wellness spa. So in effect, I've broken the ground already. I bought 2-acre site in Ghana, in West Africa, where I'm now in the process of opening up a 60-bedroom hotel and wellness spa. So we're gonna incorporate all of the elements of the treatment room. There's gonna be a Pempamsie shop there. There's gonna be effectively like an Eat of Eden restaurant there.
Yes, the whole Eden, the center, the epicenter of everything.
I'm gonna go way past the center and say to you, I can see a satellite situation going on here. It's not only in Ghana; it's going to be elsewhere. And I think
absolutely.
I think you should be looking at Europe as well.
Yes.
Well, to be honest, I'm not sure that I agree with you.
Okay.
In terms of Pempamsie, I can tell you now, we've just signed a 20-year lease on a property in Ghana, so we are opening up Pempamsie in Ghana. We're opening up in Paris. We're opening up in Maryland. We're opening up in Jamaica, in Trelawney, in the Virgin Isles, and potentially in Miami and Sierra Leone. So that is, I'm looking to establish a global brand. But in terms of the wellness retreat, the places that I've identified so far, apart from Ghana, is Rwanda, Botswana, Gambia, Kenya. So I am looking at opening up more or less a chain of wellness retreats and hotels
within the African diaspora,
within the African continent. And part of that is to try and create a gateway for Africans in Europe to actually be able to go back to Africa, experience it, because in an environment that they feel comfortable, and so not just from Europe but also from the States. And I've been doing business in Africa for the last 20 odd years. And there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of accepting the narrative that's been drawn up by the media about exactly what Africa is about. And so part of our agenda, shall we say, is to demystify Africa, to give people an opportunity to come and spend a week or two in a wellness spa. And in addition to taking care of your health and having a holiday, we'll also be helping to support people that want to look at seriously investing into Africa, because the future of Africa depends on Africa's diaspora, actually, rather than spending our time, our energy propping up the European economies. We need to start putting our resources and our skills to propping up and developing the opportunity.
I stand corrected.
Thank
you. Thank you. I stand corrected.
Aware of time, what's our usual question? We have one last question.
We have one last question for you, sir.
Amazing. The time has gone. No, you can ask.
Okay.
I think it's
sir, where do you see yourself in 5 years, and what is the legacy from Mr. Basil Linx? What would you like to leave?
Okay. In 5 years' time, hopefully, I would like to have a global chain of Eat of Edens, a global chain of Pempamsies, and also a chain of wellness retreats and hotels. And my legacy, I'd like that to be, I would like to be part of a drive to repatriate and to encourage Africans to go back to Africa and to re-engage with our cousins, our brothers and our sisters on the continent, to partner and to develop and to grow and to make Africa strong. That is really my life work.
Amen. Thank you very much. Oh my God. On that note,
we are going to stop for now, but that only means this is part one. We're going to come back again. And you know what? I think there is plenty that we can learn from, and we've got many people in the group who would love to be a part of what you're doing and support you in any way they can. So, people, we first of all need to make sure that we buy from us. We make sure that we raise what we do in terms of what money comes out of our pocket and go outside to keep it in our own community. And this gentleman here, what he's doing is worthy of praise and worthy of support. So you know what? Let's all do that, and we're going to come back with Mr. Basil very soon. Now, believe me, he's not going to get away. You're done. We caught you now. You're done.
Exactly.
Right.
But
so
thank you very much
so
indeed
much
for being with us. It's been a pleasure for me. As I said, I'm going to say it now. Live to everybody. I met this gentleman 4.5 years ago when we started Black Business Recommendation. And on our first live that we did, I went into the Brixton shop at Pempamsie and had a brief conversation. And look, 5 years or 4.5 years later, we have the pleasure of having you on and spending some time with us and sharing your story and what you're doing. And all that we can say is that you continue doing what you're doing. It's amazing what you have done in your life so far. All right. And we're here to support you, and good luck in the future with what you're trying to do.
Thank you so much. And God bless. And I'd like to congratulate you on the work that you're doing, because it's important. It's very, very important that we network, that we actually come together as a community. And, you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Blessing to
Take
you.
Care.
And we'll talk to you pretty soon. Okay.
Everybody, Basil Linx from Director of Pempamsie and Eat of Eden.
And more. So there's more to come.
Have a good week, everybody. Thank you very much now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.